Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Now, right before you, you have the HD7970 Matrix from Asus. This is my second HD7970, and I actually intend to run this one. As I've said before, I'm not planning to run the Lightning as much because that one was baked back to life. The capacitors in it are probably toast because the guy before me had it in the oven. And just in general, like, the card also doesn't clock that great. So yeah, I have this card, which is a known good. It is in really good condition, like, in my opinion. It even came with the original box, like the guy who owned this card before me did a good job of keeping it intact. That's great. Sadly, it is an Asus card. So that means there's gonna be a rant part to this video, because there are some issues I have with how Asus designed this card. But we're gonna get to that later. First, let's get into the good stuff. So, this is a Matrix card, which means this is what is the Asus equivalent of, say, an EVGA Kingpin, an MSI Lightning, or Gigabyte SoC card. This is the top-end card that Asus made for this card, like 47970. It is very much focused on extreme overclocking. It is ready to go for that. And it has a PCB that reflects that. Now this vCore VRM is so big they actually had 2 rows of it, and this is a 16 phase. It is a double date, but like if you have doublers in was it interleaving mode? I think about it, interleaving mode, where you to take one PWM signal and then to like split it and shove it into 2 phases. Like this is a doubled 8 phase, but I count it as a real 16 phase because it's like properly doubled and not just like twice the components and then just one PWM signal shoved into it. The vCore controller is a DigiPlus ASP1211, which means, this is basically Asus telling you to flip off because you're not going to get a datasheet. The good thing though is this is very much an ACHLA228G, because that's what pretty much every 7970 runs on, so you know what this thing really is. So if you want a datasheet, just look up ACHL8228G and you're going to get the datasheet for this chip. Now the VRM, I don't know what dual end FETs I know these are dual end FETs. I don't know what these are. I couldn't really read any numbers off of them. To which I might say Bullseye made a PCB breakdown video for this card. Because of that, sorry, something in my throat. Yeah, because of that, I'm just gonna tell you, watch his video. He knows his stuff much better than I do. So if you want details on the VRM of this card, go watch that one. And yeah, so 16 phase vCore, dual end FETs, 2 rows, very big VRM. The only thing I don't like about the vCore VRM is this part, which this is the entire output filter. There is nothing on the back. This is all the output filtering you get for vCore, which is a couple 821 FP series 10K and 10,000 hours rated capacitors and a couple multi-layer ceramics in between. This is, in my opinion, very much not adequate for like a card of this caliber. I think actually my 7950 reference might have more capacitors than this. Also, these may have lower ESL and ESR. But like in terms of capacity, I think my 7950 reference PCB actually has more capacitance in the output filter than this. So yeah, that's not really looking good for the card, I think. Whether that's actually an issue, I don't know. Yeah, like the shirt says more caps, more better, and this is not more caps. So yeah, I'm a bit disappointed in the output filter that Asus put on here. Like the GTX 580 Direct CO2 has like this, plus more multi-layer ceramics and some SMD polymers. Why not this one? I don't know. Like the Direct CO2 isn't even the highest one. There was also a matrix for the GTX 580. So yeah, I don't know why the output filter is so anemic on this one, that's like the only thing I have to complain about. Then we have like standard 2-phase memory and VDDCI. not really that interesting. Like the VRM is gonna be fine. Like these are some older MOSFETs. You don't really see this package anymore, but these are this is a high performance package that's just no longer in use. But like it at the time it was a high performance package, so these MOSFETs are probably quite decent. Yeah, I can't read the numbers off of them. Yeah, like watch the board side video if you want to know specifics. Then we have two more minor rails down here. One of these is probably going to be PEX. The other one I actually don't know. So let's just skip that part and go into some of the advanced matrix features of the card. So you see here, it does have some buttons. There's a big red one that's for, if you press it, it puts the fans at 100% all the time, which is quite useful if you would bench the card on the stock heatsink, which I'm just gonna say now, don't. The stock heatsink, like there's issues with the heatsink, like the cooling in general on this card. I'm gonna get into that later. Like I really do not like the cooling solution for the card. Then we have plus and minus button. As far as I know, like these are for changing your clocks on the fly or maybe your voltages. Like I couldn't find a manual for this and I would have to test it and I haven't run the card much. So I actually don't know. And then there's a save mode button, which is just Asus over-engineering their card to fix issues with their god-awful GPU tweak software. So you have to use GPU tweak with this card, or you do not have voltage control, and you can't like access the fancy matrix XOC features. You need GPU tweak to run this card. And GPU tweak has a tendency to just bug out and like crash your system when you like load GPU tweak or like load Windows. And the save mode button, if you press it, just tells GPU tweak to shut the hell up, and then everything works. Because otherwise you would have to go into save mode, uninstall GPU tweak, reinstall it, reboot, and then you could run the card again, which is just a huge waste of time. So I'm kinda happy about the save mode button. I'm still unhappy about the fact that you need that save button in the first place. Because, like, this is something, like, Asus over-engineering their card. Like, Asus rather over-engineering their card than fixing their software. That is something. But yeah, like, it's there if GPU tweak does stupid stuff, and it probably will. I'm not looking forward to that. But yeah, you have the save mode button to get rid of GPU tweak-based issues. Then you have a switch over here, which is just labeled switch 1. I have no idea what this is, but I have a strong suspicion that this is dual BIOS, because we have those two BIOS looking chips down here. So this is probably dual BIOS. Again, no manual, no listing what it does. There's probably an LN2 BIOS on the other chip. But yeah, I would have to test it. And again, like I haven't run the card much yet. Because yeah, heatsink problems. So then there's some more things going on the back. So you have voltage read points here and then one here for memory, PLL, and vCore, and then you have some more read points right here for like power planes and ground, and then you have some enable pads. Like you short these, you enable certain things like LN2 mode. Adjustment of memory voltage VDDCI, and then I don't know what the R for E is. Would need a manual, don't have that, so no idea. So yeah, and that's pretty much it for the back. Then we also have some LEDs over here that are probably used to indicate how high your your offset buttons are from a level. And yeah, that's like pretty much everything I have to say about the PC. Like again, you want specifics, go watch Buildside's PCB breakdown. I am going to get into the ranty section of the video now. So, I do like I want to make something clear. I do like the card. I do like the PCB. I'm looking forward to running this. I am hoping that this will be very fun to run. But there are some things I just have to get out. So, this right here is the backplate. You can see there is no thermal pad there. Why? I don't know. The Direct CO2 580 did have a thermal pad for the VRM. This one doesn't. And you can see imprints of the capacitors from the back of the core and like stuff here. This would definitely make contact. Why is there no thermal pad? I don't know. Yeah. This is not that big of an issue. It's just like, you could have put a thermal pad there. It would have helped a bit, but you didn't. So, okay, I guess. But there's bigger issues. So, this is the base plate of the VRM. The card. I mean, it also covers the VRM. But like, I mean, the contact isn't that great. There's part of the dual end FETs that are not covered here. And the metal piece itself isn't that big. But I think it's actually gonna be fine. Since this is a 16 phase, this is gonna be like it's spread out and like this isn't not gonna draw that much power. I think the thermals for the VRM are gonna be fine. The thing that annoys me is this. These 4 poor memory chips. What have they done to not receive cooling? Like these down here get cooling. Like this one wasn't even covered on the Lightning because apparently it was too hard to get cooling there. But Asus managed to do this here. Why have you messed up here? Like, there is no reason why you couldn't have extended the base plate here. Like, tell me why you wouldn't do this. Cost savings? Like, this is a matrix. It's a matrix. It's an XOC. Like, it's the flagship. It's the best thing you can build. And you're telling me you wanted to save 1 cent for not extending the base plate here. Yeah, I ain't buying that. So why didn't they? Like this is right in between the 2 fans on the heatsink, so there is probably a good amount of airflow going there. But there would have also been a good amount of airflow there if you just extended the base plate there, and it would have cooled even more. Maybe the cooling would have even translated further to the base plate and cooled on these chips a bit, or these. I don't know. I don't get it. Why? Like, what? Why? Yeah, and like, I mean, this is still better than what we had on the on literally all the Nvidia cards I have from Asus. The 780 Ti Matrix, the 980 Ti Strix, also the RX 570 Expedition, and the GTX 580 Direct CO2. All of them had literally 0 memory cooling. And at least on the 580 Direct CO2, I can prove without a doubt that this makes overclocking worse. Because I've said this before, I once ran the card on water, even very cold water, and on that very cold water it scaled 376 MHz, which is a lot. So, they could have put memory cooling on that, and it would have probably performed better, because I have several cards that have memory cooling, like several GTX 580s that have memory cooling, and all of them leave the Direct CO2 in the dust. Even though the Direct CO2 overclocks better on memory when it's cold. But on the stock heatsink, on air in general, it's just worse. It has Samsung eDie and it clocks like AFR. That's basically it. So this is still better than that, but you just had to mess it up. Like, I seriously just don't get it. Like, why would you? And I'm just gonna leave it at that. I have nothing more to add. Now let's get to the biggest issue I have actually. So this is the heatsink. And this is the heatsink from the GTX 580 Direct CO2. Are you seeing it? This is the same heatsink. It just has a different shroud, and this has a copper base plate because the Tahiti core needs this raised portion, and probably because it doesn't have LIHS, wouldn't be that great with direct contact heat pipes. And it has a slightly different shroud with like an LED, like this lights up depending on what load you have, which this cable is for. The fin stack and the fans are the same. And that is very, very bad. So this heatsink I have cursed at extensively in the past. This heatsink is louder and thermally performs worse than a literal stock blower heatsink. And I've run this a lot, like I've run this many times, and every single time it performed just like that. So that, like, at this point, I'm like, yeah, I'm not measuring something wrong. This heatsink is just bad. But then, like, shortly before I got this card, I was like, okay, maybe this heatsink got like damaged. Maybe like the gas that's in the heat, like the phase change fluid in the heat pipes, vented or something, or like the heat pipes are not working right anymore. And I was like, yeah, maybe the heatsink isn't that bad after all. Like maybe just the heat pipes are doing funky stuff. Now this idea was completely erased when I got this heatsink, and it performed just as bad. So I haven't infected my system with GPU tweak yet, so I was only able to run the card at stock voltage. And at stock voltage, I think stock settings actually, and maxed fans with like pressing the button, this thing maxed at 66 degrees. Which might not sound that much. Like 66 degrees, it's a pretty decent temperature for a high-end card like, say, the 7970, which like it used to be top end. Now, the 7970 Lightning, same card, same core. I ran the Lightning at maxed out voltage, which is 1.35 volts. That's a lot over stock. And the Lightning maxed at 55 degrees. At significantly more voltage than this. And now you really see the problem. This heatsink is just bad. It's less worse because the Tahiti core puts out less heat than, say, a GF110 on the GTX 580, where it really became apparent that this heatsink is just very bad. Even though it is like a giant free slot something. Like, same goes for this. This is the same fin stack, like same fans. And like you can see the main problem here. This is a free slot heatsink, but the actual fin stack is barely thicker than my finger. And it's just like, yes, you have very powerful big fans, but at some point, if your fin stack is just undersized, even the strongest fan in the world cannot save that. And the thing is, these fans are very powerful. They move a lot of air, they are very loud. But I have a feeling that they are moving more air out the side than they are actually moving through the fin stack. That's something I noticed. Like there's barely enough space under the heatsink to put my finger into. When the card is running, like at full fan speed, I put my finger in there and I barely felt a thing. Like it felt like, oh yeah, the fan must be at like 10% or something. No, it was at 100% and it was extremely loud at that point. There's just, from what I can tell, there's just not going any air through the fin stack. I feel like everything's going, like you can see how open this is on the side. And like, this is the same thing, just with a different shroud. Like, I have a feeling the majority of the air is actually escaping out the sides, not going through the already very small fin stack. I think that's what's actually making the cooler perform so badly. And yeah, so if you plan to pick up this card, like any of the two cards that come with it, I guess more cards that come with this heatsink, like any Direct CO2 card that has like this cooler, like some variation of this cooler, I would just not recommend picking up that card to run it with this heatsink for overclocking or like benching, because it's just gonna be a pain. And it wouldn't be that bad if you could actually fix that. Like, I do have a Morpheus heatsink, I do have an Accelerate Extreme heatsink. Thing is, I can't use them on this card. I can use it on the 580 Direct CO2. This is something that's specifically on this card. This piece of metal right here collides with both of these heatsinks, and I cannot put them on here. And I don't want to cut this. I just don't. Like, the card is in such a nice condition, I want to keep it that way. So, the only way I can put a better heatsink on this is water block it. And the new water block I wanted for this actually arrived now. It's just I'm still waiting on the radiator and the tubing. And the fans. So the loop isn't ready yet, and that's basically the reason why this card has just been sitting on my shelf, waiting for its time. Because, like, again, I really like the card. And I hope it's gonna be fun. I will run the card. It's like just I can't just highlight the good things and then completely forget about the bad, because this is just it wouldn't be that big of an issue if Aces still wouldn't make the same mistakes, but like still, like Vega 64s, RX 5700 XTs. I've heard report of heatsink pressure not being right. I've heard reports of bad thermals. Backplates still don't have thermal pads under them. And I'm just like, yeah, they haven't fixed the thing. Like, by now they are putting cooling on the memory chips at least. But like, that's the only thing they've consistently started doing. And yeah. So I'm just like, I always feel like I'm a bit too unfair to Aces. But then I just keep thinking about the stuff that makes me upset, and then I just feel completely justified, because this, like, why not put the matter here? Why not make a proper heatsink like MSI Gigabyte and EVGA can do it? Why not you, Aces? Like, just do it like Zotac and buy like a custom GPU heatsink and just sell it with the custom GPU heatsink. Like that probably would have worked better. So yeah. I think I've ranted enough. So yeah, the card is great. If you see one of these cards, if you wanna know if it is worth picking up, I would say absolutely. Just swap the heatsink, like put something else on. Like, swap the heatsink for something different. Don't use the stock one, Jack. Just like don't. Then you're gonna be fine. The PCB on the card, like except for maybe this output filter, the PCB is very impressive. I like the PCB. The features, even you have to use GPU tweak, but I guess it won't kill me, so it's fine. It does have nice extra features, and that's good. Still better than not having them. And yeah, so I want to end the video on a positive note. This is a genuinely great card. I do like the card. It's just I want people to be aware about the issues that the card has. Like, that's a thing that Asus keeps doing. Like, they keep messing up thermals. Sometimes it's a minor thing, like no thermal pad on the backplate. Sometimes it's a major thing, like overheating, like not really but like hotter running than it should be memory, which results in lower overclocks, and just heatsinks that are very inefficient or outright bad. But yeah, like PCB wise, the card is great. Feature wise, the card is great. It will hopefully be a lot of fun. Just like, put a different heatsink on it, please. And yeah, with that I would like to close out the video. I think I've shaved off about 10 minutes from my last take, so I wanna keep the video short. So yeah, thank you all for listening to my rant, my rambly thoughts. And I hope the next time you see the card I have something nice to report. So, let's have a nice shot of the PCB one more time. HG7970 matrix. I do like it a lot. And I think if you can find one of these for cheap and you wanna like test them, like you wanna have some fun overclocking them, I would give my seal of approval to picking this up. Just be aware of the thermal constraints, and yeah. So, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and until next time, goodbye. bye.